What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to do a battle between a cheap $85 vintage lens versus an expensive $700 modern lens. Why, you might ask? Well, I want to show you guys the possibilities of using cheaper, more affordable lenses with your cameras, especially if you're on a budget to get a unique, interesting look. We'll also dive into the image quality between the two lenses, and honestly, I think you would be really impressed with the results. So in the left hand corner we have the Canon 50mm f1.8 ft vintage lens, the original nifty 50 and the king of bokeh. It's a tiny little lens that has been built quite well. It's good to look at and even better to look through it. What I love about the old Canon FD vintage lenses is that they have great optics. They're affordable and you can easily pick them online or at any vintage camera stores. But now you're probably thinking, how am I gonna attach this lens to my camera? Well, the good news is that you can buy a cheap adapter online, which will allow you to easily attach your old lens onto your new body to get some beautiful looking footage. If you're not sure which lens adapter to get, I'll put links to all of my recommended lens adapters for all types of cameras down below in the description. Now, when shooting with vintage lenses, you do lose a lot of the automatic features and functions of your camera. So now you have to manual focus and set the exposure manually using manual mode. Or in this instance, setting the f-stop yourself and not relying on the camera to adjust the exposure for you. So for those of you that don't know how to do this, don't worry. Next week I'm gonna bring out a video explaining how to use your camera's manual settings. Now in the right hand corner we have the Fuji 18 to 55mm f2.8 lens. This is technically a kit lens, but it's so much better than your average kit lens that you are thinking about. Unlike the other fujinon lenses, the 18 to 55mm lens doesn't have an aperture ring. Instead, we get an aperture switch and an unmarked aperture ring. So if you move the switch to A mode, the ring does nothing, but if you move the switch to iris mode, the aperture ring becomes active. Another nice thing about this lens is that it has OIS. It's Fujifilm's own optical image stabilization system. This is controlled by an on and off switch below the aperture selection switch. A wide zoom ring is near the front of the lens, with a narrow fly-by-wire focus ring of the same texture just in front of it. The front of the lens extends when you zoom in, but it does not rotate. For a zoom lens, the acuity is high and there are no real weak spots. The sharpness of the lens is also really good, and I was very happy with the results I got so far. I think most people need to think seriously about just getting the 18 to 55mm lens and skipping the 18mm and 35mm prime lenses. Why, you might ask? Because the zoom is sharp and optically quite a good performer across the board. And it's also a heck of a lot more convenient. And being a f2.8 lens, it's also not a slow lens. Okay, so let's go have a look at some of the video footage I took with both of these lenses, plus some photos.